Hello everyone. I will explain to you how the demo InputGen works. InputGen is a tool that automatically generates prototype inputs to support rapid requirements validation. In our previous work, we proposed the case tool RM2PT. Stakeholders can use RM2PT to directly generate prototypes from the requirements model and check the consistency by executing the generated prototype, which can make the requirements validation and evolution more intuitive and convenient. The case tool RM2PT has the following two disadvantages. On the one hand, stakeholders need to spend time modeling the administrator and their operations and manually adding initial data to the generated prototype for requirements validation. Because the generated prototype does not contain any initial data, the work is time-consuming and laborious. The administrator is a class of people who is responsible for managing information in a system. On the other hand, during requirements validation, the generated prototype requires stakeholders to manually enter input data, satisfies the preconditions of the system operation. But it is difficult for them to conceive and enter data. The process is troublesome and error-prone. For example, it is difficult for stakeholders to enter the barcode data of the item in supermarket sales, and the quantity purchased needs to be smaller than the stock number of the item. But stakeholders don't know what are the barcode and inventory of each good, and they don't know what is reasonable and legal input data in the current situation. If the input data is invalid, the operation cannot be executed correctly. Therefore, InputGen is a tool that extends the functionality of RM2PT. It uses the same model as RM2PT. The refactored prototype is Prototype Plus. It can generate input data based on the contract of system operation and the current state of the system. By executing the Prototype Plus to validate the consistency of requirements, it is easy to find out the errors in requirements. Aiming at the disadvantages of the tool RM2PT mentioned above. InputGen contains two features, as shown in the figure. First of all, InputGen provides an external interface for loading initial data, which can save the time for the administrator. The operations of modeling the administrator and manually adding initial data in the generated prototype are eliminated. Initial data is imported from the YAML file, which can be viewed and modified easily by the user. Secondly, InputGen can automatically refactor and enhance the generated prototype from RM2PT. The Prototyper Plus can automatically generate a validated input data of the system operations for requirement validation by clicking a button. If stakeholders are not satisfied with the input data, they can also click the input box to choose other candidates. The model we demonstrate is COCOM, a supermarket system from RM2PT, which is widely used in our daily life. Now, we use COCOM model to demonstrate the function of InputGen. First, we use the RM2PT tool to generate a prototype from the COCOM requirements model. Second, run the prototype, and you can see that the prototype input needs to be entered manually by the user. The third step is to run the InputGen tool to refactor the prototype and update the project. The fourth step is to run the refactored prototype for requirements validation. Before using the prototype to validate the requirements, you need to use the Load File button to automatically load the initial data from the external interface, without manually adding it after modeling the administrator. The loaded initial data is shown in the figure. Now we demonstrate the supermarket sales and checkout process to validate the function of InputGen. First, open the store. Second, open the cash desk. Then there is the sales and checkout process. Create a new sale first. Then enter the barcode and purchase quantity of the commodity. You can click the Load from State button to randomly generate input data. At the same time, if you are not satisfied with the input data, you can also click the input box and double-click to select. After all the items have been entered, you can automatically generate the bill amount after ending the sale. Finally, the user pays the bill in cash. After the checkout, the demonstrated process of supermarket sales is completed. As shown in the table, we demonstrate that the InputGen can improve 56.43% times efficiency of requirements validation than the original generated prototype from RM2PT. In addition, we compared the modeling time and the time cost of writing the YAML file. As table shows that on average, it takes 0.29 hours to write the external file with the same initial data, while modeling the administrator and manually adding the same data takes 4.11 hours. To sum up, using InputGen can improve the time efficiency by 13.77 times in the entire requirements validation compared with manual work, making the requirements validation more convenient and easy. This is the end of the InputGen demonstration. Thank you and goodbye.